Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. This is going to be one of a kitchen session. I haven't put the camera on the tripod yet because I want to get the plants out of the way because I want a coffee. There's no way I'm doing that without a drink. I'm going to film firstly the what's in my pot game, so getting everything out of the pot. That's going to make a hell of a mess with that number of plants, and then I'll probably separate that and I will film some of the repotting or whatever I plan on doing, but I'll be looking for differences, in other words things that I haven't filmed for a while. Just taking a plant out of a pot and sticking it in another one with some new media. You've seen plenty of those videos, there's no need to do that sort of thing again, but I might be doing something a bit different with some of these. But there's quite an assortment in here. There's a Bulbophyllum, this is Delatescens. And the reason this is coming out of the pot is when I planted this it was two pieces. One of them is not going to grow, it just isn't. The other one's headed off in two directions and the new growth is sandwiched up against the edge of the pot. So that's going to get just that little piece put in a separate pot, I think. I don't plan on keeping that long term. It doesn't do a lot for me. So there's a Bulbophyllum. There's a couple of dendrobiums. There's this little oh, excuse me. It's this little spring drimmer pollen just coming back into growth in a couple of places and some new roots. So, and it's wobbly in its pot. It actually fell out of its pot back in the winter, so we'll get that one sorted out one way or the other. This tiny little dendrobium complete with buds. That's going to get something done with it, so two dendrobiums to do. We have a Zygonisia, which is a relative to Zygopetalums, I believe. I can't think what on earth else it is with a name starting with Zygo. Anyway, I haven't got a clue what that's all about. I know nothing about that plant. So there's that one to do. We've got that Coelogyne, which is a very young plant. I've seen mature versions of this 3 foot across, you know, and 3 foot high. They've eaten the basket that was underneath them. So this is a very young plant. It has bloomed for me and it's growing to some things at the moment. Those could be spikes, I don't know, but it's been in its pot far too long. It's just staying wet too long, so obviously the air and everything in the media is gone. So there's that Coelogyne. There is a Miltonia, Oncidium alliance, that's just jam-packed with roots in the pot. It's got no room to breathe there. Again, it's been in its pot a while, so time to sort that one out. So an Oncidium alliance. There's my Encyclia cordigera, which is Cattleya alliance. And just having a quick look about this, this has a distinct dislike to stale media and compacted media. This needs an airy mix, fresh. So and I need to get my fern out and pot that up separately. And then over here we've got the giant. This is a Coelogyne again. This is Moriana, and that's going to be a lot of mess emptying that pot out, but it's got to be done. It's been in there a while, and it's another one that objects to either breaking down media and or a media that stays wet too long. And it also objects to being repotted, so it's a bit of a pain, that one, but now seems a good time when it's got new growths maturing and some new growth starting, so now seems to be a good time. So I'll get the camera set up on the tripod and we'll start making a mess. Oh, I got a little prezi as well. Last time I was doing repotting I was complaining these scissors have sort of had their day, so I have a shiny new pair that I've ordered and have just arrived today, just in time to attack this lot. So I'll get myself sorted, get the camera set up, and we'll play what's in my pot. Okay, coffee's done. First job, get my new scissors out of their pack. These older ones just aren't cutting as well as they once did. So these have actually come from Premier Bonsai, which is, given the website, it's got .uk on the end, so I would imagine it's a UK company, but they do have a Japanese mark on them. And these were the only ones I could, oh, I love that sound, sharp blades. Oh yes, very sharp blades, we like that. But they were the only ones I could find that were effectively like for like, except the ones from the Japanese bonsai companies, which were over £100. not paying that for a pair of scissors. But these do come with a little surprise. Well, I won't say it's a surprise, I knew it was coming. They've got a little leather case to keep them in, which is really useful. Not. I can't see that ever getting used. The bother of putting them in and taking them out all the time probably means that's not going to get used, but I might find another use for that. It's a nice plastic leather, not real leather. But yeah, so new scissors. You don't need all that stuff at the moment. Go up there with the packaging. I don't think I'll get the old ones and the new ones muddled up, literally, because I can hear those blades going together. They're nice and sharp, plus the points touch. So, but what I could do is save the old ones for cutting thicker pieces. Yeah, because they'll still cut, but I have actually bent the handles on this sometimes, trying to cut something that's too thick, where I'm too lazy to get the heavy-duty pruners out. So we have scissors, we have stuff for getting the mess. So coffee on the go, and this is a fast get out of the pot thing. I'm not messing about here, I've got a lot to do. This is just going to fall out of the pot, I suspect. There's not much going on, basically. So it pushed out this new growth here, which buried itself into the ground, basically. So it became an underground bulb and just a leaf sticking up, which is quite... Oh boy, does that smell of mushrooms. Again, it's the same thing, you know. It's a relatively small mix with moss. If you leave it, and it's a plant that needs to stay moist, and that media will be the first to break down, always, because the moss will help the speed of the bark breaking down, because it stays moist. But the plant needs that. Nonetheless, we've got some reasonable roots there. Right, I shall pull that. The piece I'm after is this piece here, basically. Which has an extension out here. It's an older growth, but nonetheless it does have some dryish roots which could actually get going again. Yeah, so I shall probably just take a piece off of that, maybe 2 pieces, put it in a new pot, and that'll be to go. It's not something I actually want to keep. It has bloomed for me once, I think, so that's that one. So I'm just going to pull this bark off. Basically because I don't want too much in the sink because it blocks it. So that's the worst of it off. So that's the Bulbophyllum done. Pops out the way. Just set that up for now. This is the little Zygonisia. This came in the big box and it was repotted at the time, but it was virtually rootless. So I did actually put it in another pot with quite a lot of moss to try and get some roots to grow. And I have seen roots growing down through here. Whether they're still there or not remains to be seen. But what I'm after is the white roots under that latest growth, because those should be reasonably healthy. Yep, we do have some healthy roots. See how much moss was put in there? Well, that's because that was just to encourage root growth. But then if you're going to do that, you've got to watch leaving it in the pot too long with the moss, you know. You've got to keep at these things and remember what you're doing, you know, remember that why you did something and the fact that it will need undoing in the not too distant future. Yeah, there are some manky roots, but these are good roots. These are nice roots. Some of these have lost their growing tip. They may branch, that I don't know. I don't see any branching roots on here, so maybe it's, oh yes, there's one there, so it can branch. See, that bit's died off, so it's pushed another one out the side. So we do have roots on that, and its state of play is, I can't remember which way round. I've got a feeling it pushed that tiny little growth up and didn't grow, and then it pushed up a better one. And the bulb on that growth is about the same size as the one that was there when I got it. But we do have some roots, so getting that in some fresh media, that should push on now. Zygonisia, mess. Next Let's get something that's going to be easy next. This is the little, it's allegedly a nobly type, and it's called Lovely Virgin Type Angel, with it in quotes. Right, and this has got buds on, but it's coming into growth. And it's also pushed quite a few roots out of the holes in the bottom. So I'm going to try and loosen those so that they will thread back through, which they've done nicely. And this was given quite large media, it should just fall away. Yep. Now, dead roots here. So if you look at the oldest cane, which is the one with the buds, these are the old roots, they're dead. Excuse me, but the latest growth has grown some roots that are still active and is currently pushing out some new ones. So a good time to do something with that. Not sure what, let you know. But we're going to get some blooms on it anyway, so that's that little dendrobium. Next, let's get the other dendrobium out. I don't need to help this out of the pot, it's going to fall. It's been out of this pot so many times, it just keeps falling out. Stake didn't work, basically. So what have we got? What we've got here is it's just coming into growth and starting some new roots. That's why I'm dealing with it now. It's a single plant, spring dreamer pollen. Pushed out a couple of blooms on an old cane. And what I'm after with this is that this cane has a terminal leaf, so it's not going to grow anymore, and it was a small cane, it didn't get going very well. But what I'm after now is a good environment for this new growth and possibly others to grow into. That's the idea of getting something done with it now. Quite a few of these roots are gone, but nonetheless some of them are perfectly capable of hydrating the plant until it gets these new roots going. So we'll give that one some help. I planted worse than that, I must admit, but yeah, I was dubious as to whether even to let that bloom. I still maintain that there are plants, there are orchids, that when they're in bloom they won't grow. There's something about the blooming that inhibits new growths. That may not be true, but it certainly is in some cases that I've witnessed. So I've seen it for real. I'm not talking about theory there, I've seen it. So there we go, nice little plant to plant up. Spring dreamer pollen, that's the other dendrobium. Right, am I going to start struggling yet, or shall I stick with the easy ones? I'll stick with the easy ones. More coffee. Let's get me tags out. At least I don't have to worry about getting the plants muddled up. You deal with 6 Tolumnias that are not in bloom, you're liable to get your plants muddled up. Allegedly, I mean, I can't imagine that I would ever do something as stupid as that. Yeah, I did. Right, so this is a little Coelogyne. Now look at the state of that. Okay, I did water that today, but look at the state of that. It's just soggy. There's so little air in there. And again, moss, small bark, cooler temperatures. Got a rotten bulb there that could come off. Oh, we've got 2 plants now. That rhizome's going. That rhizome's keeling over. So I don't think that was planted as 2 plants. Luckily, that's the back end that's of no use, quite honestly. I know somebody's going to moan, why don't you pot it up and grow a new plant? Because I don't want to. And to look after a plant for the sake of giving it away, quite honestly, to be blunt, I've got enough to do. You know, I've got enough of my own plants that I do want to keep to look after. So we'll watch those growths, whatever they are. They could be spikes. They may be new growths, I don't know. But that's not going to do much without getting in some fresh media, that's for sure. So we'll give that a rinse off. So it's difficult to tell whether these roots are dead or not. But they're there, there's sufficient there to hydrate the plant and enough to hold it in a pot. So what we'll now have is the oldest bulb, the 2 growths that grew, and whatever these things are, whether they're spikes or new growths. So that was Coelogyne nitida. I'm not going to bother calling it by its old name anymore because its new name is a lot easier to say. Right, let's move up to the more awkward as we progress. This is Miltonia flavescens, never bloomed for me. It was bought as quite a small plant. And it's absolutely filled that pot. This is going to take a lot of cleaning up. It's just a solid mass of roots basically, and they're covered in slime. And I didn't water this morning and it's still wet from the last time round. So it's staying wet too long and it needs some air around it. And it's liable to start new growth soon. It hasn't actually started them, but there's a plenty good enough root system on here to repot it now, and more roots, new roots, will form with the new growths. I don't know on this one whether the new roots come at the same time as the new growths or follow on. Some Oncidium types don't start their new roots until the bulbs are almost mature, and others push them out together. But this needs a really good rinse under the tap, a good go with the hydrogen peroxide. The idea with the hydrogen peroxide on this is to kill this algae off basically. And although the green doesn't go away, it stops it progressing, it just puts it on hold. A lot of it will come off under the tap. So we do have a lot of roots, and quite a few of those are not happy roots. They're not as bad as they look, but the centre of the plant does have a mass of older roots and no air. That will be the problem with this root system. Just no air in there. As I said, it's eaten the media. There's hardly any media came out of that pot. It's eaten it. Still, we can't complain when we get a really good root system, so that'll have to be a under the tap job to give that the best clean-up I can. But not a bad root system. It would look a lot better without all that green on it. We'll deal with that as best we can. So that's the Oncidium Alliance type. More coffee. Right, so now we'll deal with this one. This is Encyclia cordidera, and a quick check on the internet. This should not stay in any form of compact airless media, or the roots will go. That's why I lost the roots the first time, although at that time I didn't know why. And again, this hasn't been watered and it's wet. It's just no air. It's just no air. So I doubt if I'm going to find a good root system here. The centre of the plant definitely won't have good roots in it. I don't even need to bother checking. As I said, this got potted on by mistake. Just fear of repotting it basically when I got it. You've heard me talk about the Cattleya that I wanted to get from Chantel, the lady that went off to Australia and gave up being an orchid trader, good friend. This I also bought at the same time. Because although I wanted one of her Cattleyas, because that's what she was really famous for, she did sell other orchids. And this happened to be in bloom at the time, and I thought, we'll have that. Knew nothing about it, nothing at all, and was a bit frightened of repotting it, so I potted it on. And the media was already breaking down in the pot, and I then confined that inside another lot of media. That lost me the root system. So then when I replanted it, we started with virtually no roots, and it looks like we're going to be in a similar situation now. But I should be able to get that under the tap and get my fern separated off. Look, it's got moss in it. Now, I don't know whether I put that there or whether that's left from when I got the plant, but all that moss needs coming right out, and these old roots getting out of the way, so that the base of these pseudo bulbs have got air around them, and then hopefully some of these roots will grow. They're not new roots, but there are some that are relatively new. So this plant is now going to stall, probably quite badly. So it might be well into the growing season before we see any signs of life on that. And that needs a totally different theory to what it had before if it's going to grow decently. It might be time to even split it. We shall have a think. But we do have a couple of active roots, but very few. This bulb here has got a few nice roots. That's not enough to support the plant, But I've also got quite a few aerial roots that, like this one's decided to travel around the plant. Well, that can be brought back. It's got some up in the plant that are possibly still growing, like here. You know, that pseudobulb pushed up higher than the base of the plant. But we do have some roots. But I presume this, yeah, that fern will come off. He hasn't got a brilliant root system, but it's got one, so we'll get that potted up. I'm not losing my fern. Yeah, and we'll get all this moss out, get the dead roots off, and I'm confident that will not leave a lot. Oh, we've got two ferns. There's another little piece there. That can go in the same pot. Yeah, that's going to be difficult to clean up, but it needs air around the base of all those pseudobulbs. It's got to be cleaned up. So in the sink with you. Getting there. Now I've got flipping bits in my coffee. Oh well, I'll live. I probably dropped off that fern. Let's get that in the sink as well. Or ferns too now. I'm just spreading that out. Because otherwise when I tip this last pot up, it's going to go all over the sides. Because this, I'd like to say the pot's too big, but it's a very big plant. Have we got roots coming out the bottom? No. Good. So in theory this should just pull out. Should just break loose. Oh, I just love it when a theory goes wrong. This is an incredibly sturdy pot, and it's going to be difficult to break this plant loose. Just keep squeezing gently around the edges, and anything that's hanging on should just loosen. Just go round. And then give it another go. When you're pulling a plant like this, don't pull the new growths, will you? Don't be silly. Dear oh dear. Oh, that's a lot of a plant. Still, we've had some nice blooms on it. Now, what have we got actually in the pot? Fragile roots on these. Roots similar to Paphiopedilum roots. They've got hairs on them. Probably can't see it very well, but they're hairy roots on this one. This is going to be difficult to break away. This is a teasing job. A lot of the roots have got right down to the bottom of the pot where the that was the I didn't know that was in there. That was obviously to stabilise the pot. It was top heavy. But a lot of these roots have got right throughout the pot. So it has got an extensive root system. Yeah, that's what I was a trifle worried about with this one. There's some mould in the pot. Not a lot, but that don't suddenly go away once you've got it. Some little white bits that are not roots. Excuse me. But luckily it's got very little. I don't even think it's got any moss in here. I think this is just bark. So by continuously wiggling around, it should just gradually fall through all the holes and be relatively tidy. There might be some of these old bulbs come off, I don't know. Now this plant to buy is pretty damn expensive, so I might try putting a couple of back bulbs in a pot and see if they'll grow. They would sell on. When this is blooming well, it's a showstopper. It really is. It's one of the few Coelogynes that the bloom spikes come straight out at the top of the pseudobulb. You know, where the leaves are basically, come straight out the top. Most Coelogynes bloom from sort of near the base somewhere. But these come straight out the top. Self-supporting spike of very, very large flowers. So we got roots. Some good, some not so good. Yeah, we may have to have two plants here. We've got new roots in various places. So, but then there are things, you know, there's bulbs like this around the back, and there, that are not doing anything for the plant anymore. Although two of them have got leaves on. They're the oldest leaves, but. And they're tightly joined, you know, the rhizomes are not separate by any means. I'll have a think about that one, but we'll have to get it under the tap, tease away the rest of the bark, and sort out what are good roots and what aren't. But it's a bit of a beast, this one, bit of a beast. And then I'll have a good search. All the sheaths are coming off, but I can see the wood for the trees. And then see what new growth we've actually got, because that's a relatively new growth. So is that one. You won't be able to see it. That one in through there is relatively new. This is relatively new, and you see the difference. And it does have a new one here on an immature bulb there that didn't fulfil its role. It didn't grow to its maximum size, but it's having another go and putting another new growth out. And that doesn't mean it's finished with new growths. Obviously new growths can come out almost anywhere on this plant. So I'll see what I've got, and we'll go from there. So kitchen sink session time now. Get everything washed off, get everything cleaned up, and I'll be back with filming some of them but not all of them, and we'll see where we go from there.